डेली दर्शन अलार्म जय हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। Let's chant the prayers first. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Tadati Svapadantikam Vande Shri Shri Radha Shri Shri Rupa Sagrajantam Samganam Tam Sajiva Sadvaitam Sadhu Krishna Shri Krishna Shri He Krishna Karna Sindhu Deenabandhu तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे ईश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च सिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा 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 श्री गुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्री चैतन्य ईश्वरम्। So, reading Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, Text number 4. Om Namo Te Vasudevaya. Sudevaya. Om Te Vasudevaya. Te Vasudevaya. So 325-4. Sutta Vacha Dvaipayana Sakastvevam Maitreyo Bhagavanstatha Prabhedam Viduram Prita Anvekshikyam Prajodita Dvaipayana Sakastvevam Maitreyo Bhagavanstatha Prabhedam Viduram Prita Anvekshikyam Prajodita Dvaipayana Sakastvevam Maitreyo Bhagavanstatha Prabhedam Viduram Prita Anvekshikyam Prajodita. And what's the side? Sutta Vacha Dvaipayana Sakastvevam Maitreyo Bhagavanstatha Prabhedam Viduram Prita Anvekshikyam Prajodita. Sutta Vacha Dvaipayana sakasvevam Maitreyo Bhagavan Sada Prahedam Viduram Prita Anvikshityam Prajodita Sutta Uvacha Sutta Goswami said Dvaipayana Sakha friend of Vyasadeva then Evam thus Maitreya Bhagavan worshipful Tatha in that way Praha spoke Idam this Viduram to Vidura Prita being pleased Anvikshikyam about transcendental knowledge Prajoditaha being asked Sri Sutta Goswami said, translated purport by his divine grace, Avai Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Sri Sutta Goswami said, the most powerful sage Maitreya was a friend of Vyasadeva. Being encouraged and pleased with Vidura's inquiry about transcendental knowledge, Maitreya spoke as follows. Purport, question and answers are very satisfactorily dealt when the inquirer is bona fide and the speaker is also authorized. Here, Maitreya is considered a powerful sage and therefore he is also described as Bhagavan. The word can be used not only for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but for anyone who is almost as powerful as the Supreme Lord. Maitreya is addressed as Bhagavan because he was spiritually far advanced. He was a personal friend of Dvaipayana Vyasadeva, a literary incarnation of the Lord. Maitreya was very pleased with the inquiries of Vidura because they were the inquiries of a bona fide advanced devotee. Thus, Maitreya was encouraged to answer. When there are discourses on transcendental topics between devotees of equal mentality, the questions and answers are very fruitful and encouraging. Again, one more time. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, I was born and I am still in the darkest ignorance. And I hope and pray that my spiritual master will deliver me, spiritual master and the devotees will deliver me from this dark ignorance. And at the same time, very much grateful to be in the association of those who are in knowledge, enlightened. So I know that the person sitting in front of me will deliver me. And I beg the blessings of all the devotees, very exalted devotees, on whose tongue the holy name always vibrates. Such devotees are sitting here. I'm not qualified to speak before them. But just hopefully by their purity, by their inspiration, I can recognize where I'm going wrong. So, this is a very, very wonderful verse. And yesterday in the Brahmachari class, we were discussing that how actually Brahmachari is not limited to men, and Brahmachari, the concept of Brahmacharya is not limited to even those who are celibate. But Brahmacharya is significant to everyone because Brahmacharya means student life, and we aspire to be eternally students, where even after one enters the spiritual world also he still remains a student. And he's always a student. And the most amazing example of that is Srimati Radharani herself. She says that I have no love for Krishna, and it's mentioned that Radharani herself, she observes certain broths she observes. One of the broths she observes is she actually fasts to get the pleasure of Vendadevi to please Krishna. So, in the spiritual world, constantly devotees are trying to make more and more arrangements, more and more endeavor to give Krishna newer and newer pleasure, so that they don't get, I mean, they never get bored, but so that they don't offer the same thing to Krishna, and Krishna also on his side, his reciprocation also changes every single time. So, um, this system of question and answers is very, very powerful because first let's analyze the concept of asking question. So why does one ask a question? So one asks a question because he wants some help in his life. A genuine question is asked with a purpose. It's a purposeful question. So questions asked to saintly personalities, those who are completely renounced from this material world and who are trying their level best to engage in service of the Lord. Question asked to such persons should be purposeful. Purposeful means that we should agree to accept their answer, and we should have some serious need for that answer. Otherwise, we should not just ask questions for the sake of asking. Um, just technical questions just for the sake of asking. I mean, one can always ask clarification, but like if one goes to the assembly of an exalted devotee, a guru, a sannyasi, an exalted devotee in ISKCON, one should not ask questions which one can find researching on Vedas. One should not ask such questions because that is simply a waste of time. You're wasting his time. His time is very valuable. And if you were to ask a very जय श्री श्री राधा गोपी जनवल्लभ तपतमणि गौरहरि जय गुरु Srila Prabhupada ki jai. If we were to ask a very purposeful question, then with the answer comes the blessings, and with the blessings come a practical change in our spiritual life. So that is far more valuable to us than just asking a question for the sake of asking, which you can just find on the internet. So here, Prabhupada is saying that Maitreya is spiritually far advanced. So I will, today's topic is about basically about Sadhu Sangha. What is Sadhu Sangha? How to take Sadhu Sangha? And why we need Sadhu Sangha? Why? Why do we need Sadhu Sangha? So first let's analyze. People come to Bhakti for different reasons. The first reason, I mean, including me, why I initially came or come to Bhakti is because of fear of unknown. Unknowing things, unexplainable things are happening in our life, so we come to Bhakti. So you come out of fear. Then after some time, you come to the level of duty. And then duty is vidhi, so you perform the vidhi for the sake of vidhi. But then after some time, we want to go a little deeper. So there is some affection, there is some love. So vidhi and love is mixed. And finally, when one attains perfection, it's only love. There is no service performed out of duty even. So we want to reach that stage where we can enter devotional service only out of love for Krishna. So since we want to reach that stage where devotees we aspire to be devotees who are only serving Krishna out of the desire to please him. So it's very important for us to choose such association of devotees who are only trying their best to please him. Devotees who don't have any other desire, who have no second desire. Devotees whose only desire is to please the Lord. And you can see this from the activity of devotees. Those devotees who don't engage in, I'm speaking for myself, those devotees who don't engage in prajalpa, those devotees who don't engage in criticism, those devotees who have no other desire, which means that they don't find their satisfaction, they don't find their identity anywhere else except in the service of the Lord. So such devotees will be associated then we can slowly come to the platform of loving devotional service. And we all know for a fact that there is not much use in standing in two boats at the same time. There's no point, because neither will you go to the right nor will you go to the left. It's just a waste of time. So it's useless trying to endeavor both in spiritual and material life at the same time. Uh, I mean, one may endeavor in material life as a matter of duty, but without attachment. Without attachment, which means one's full attachment is only in spirituality. There's no material, quote unquote, deep desire or ambition. I mean, okay, one may want a uh, convenient job in order to maintain his devotional service, but at the same time, we should be very careful about our desire. So we may not have that deep desire that the exalted devotees have, love for Krishna, but at least if we have one desire that we want to serve the desire of the Guru Parampara, I want to fulfill the desire of Prabhupada, at least if we have that desire, then we will be successful in our devotional service. So such kind of association is very important. It's very, very important. And devotees from whom we hear, more important than what they're speaking is their life, is their heart. So that's very important for us to understand. So it's not just hearing, is not just a matter of downloading information or intellectual entertainment. Hearing is the matter of transformation of the heart. That's what hearing is meant for, transformation of the heart. So, and the purpose of hearing is actually to absorb the mood, to be inspired by the mood. So now I'll take a little detour on this topic and go to Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is a very wonderful scripture spoken by Krishna himself. So I'll speak about the three modes. How the three modes are very important in this connection. Urdhvam gachanti sattvasva madhye tishtanti rajasa jaganya gunavritrista adho gachanti tamasa. So this is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, text 18. So in this particular verse, it's mentioned that those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets, and those in the abominable mode of ignorance go down to the hellish planets. So, according to the mode that we are in, or we live our life in, accordingly, we will get that kind of association. So, it's very important to live on the platform of the mode of goodness, try one's best, and even better to try to approach the mode of pure goodness. So, if we try to approach the mode of pure goodness in our daily activities, then we will get such association, because everything which is internally cultivated is externally manifested. Like in course of devotional service, we observe that whatever we internally cultivate, meditate, that's what we externally receive the opportunity. So it's not surprising that certain devotees, very exalted devotees, they're always in the association of pure devotees. It's not surprising. Why? Because they are cultivating those kind of desires. And Krishna is so merciful, so Krishna arranges for them to always be in the loving embrace and loving care of pure devotees, both internally and externally. So, being in the mode of goodness is very, very important in sadhu sangha, and being in the mode of goodness means being in knowledge, being in knowledge. And Prabhupada said that how will you recognize my follower? My follower will be perfect gentleman. So, one of the symptoms of knowledge is one follows Vaishnava etiquette very, very carefully, and the finer symptoms should manifest in such a person who is performing sadhana very scrutinizingly. The finer symptoms should manifest, and these finer symptoms of Vaishnava etiquette of behavior is what actually qualifies us to deal with exalted souls. Because exalted souls, uh, their activities, they are very fine, very intricate, very cannot say subtle but spiritual. So in order to deal with such personalities, we also have to put ourselves, we have to try to approach such a platform so that we can deal with them. So why do you want to deal with them? Because we want their mercy. We want their pure devotional service. Whatever pure devotion is in their heart, we want that to rub off on us. So of course, it's not limited to Guru, but it's a general principle, sadhu sangha. So when we try very sincerely to approach the mode of pure goodness, wherever we may be, if we try very sincerely to approach the mode of pure goodness by following the instructions of Prabhupada and by sincerely aspiring for pure devotional service, then we get a lot of help. And that's why our previous acharyas have written so many wonderful, wonderful songs. And Chaitanya Charitamrita is full of such interactions between devotees who are completely on the transcendental platform. So we can learn a lot from that, that what should be the kind of interaction, the quality of association in our society. Because in verse number 4 of Nectar of Instruction, it's mentioned, Datati Pratigrahanati, Guhyam Pritchi, Bhumte Bhojete Cheva, Shadvitam Priti Lakshana. So of all these 6 exchanges, we all have experience that, out of giving gifts, receiving gifts, out of making prasad or honoring prasad, the most nourishing and the most important, or at least from our experience, we all have experienced that to reveal one's mind and to inquire confidentially is the most powerful. Because by doing that, when you reveal your mind in confidence, then if you're facing some difficulty, then not only are you taking shelter of the devotee, but you're actually taking a humble position. And when you inquire confidentially, or when a devotee reveals his mind in confidence about his devotional service, then it becomes very inspiring and very powerful, especially if you have a very intimate relationship with such a person. And that's the actual meaning of sadhu sangha. So sadhu sangha means that you have a relationship with someone, you have very deep faith in someone, that this person has taste in Krishna consciousness. And as a result of your faith in his taste in Krishna consciousness, therefore he reveals deeper confidential aspects of devotional service, which are very, very valuable to our personal advancement. So, of course, this inquiry, as in Bhagavad Gita it's mentioned, it starts on the platform of Danya Bodhika, which means admitting our miserly weakness and begging for help. Like in chapter 2, verse 7, Arjuna is saying, Karpanya dosho bhata svabhava pricham tvam dharma samudacheta yashreyasya nishchitam bruhi tanme shishyasteham sadhimam tvam prapannam. Now I'm confused about my duty and I've lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I'm asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So, of course, all inquiry, all Vishamakyati Pranchati will start on this platform, but as time goes on, it will become deeper and deeper and deeper. And the more and more we are able to hear the realizations of exalted souls about their devotional sentiments, the more and more our devotional service will be deeply nourished. So it's really amazing to hear about how to relish spiritual life. Because why we came to spiritual life? We came to spiritual life because we want to develop our Krishna consciousness. So His Grace Yorosha always mentions it's not about the activity, but it's about the consciousness. That is the only difference. Actually, if you see, that is the real difference. And that's the difference we really need to focus on. So yesterday, one devotee asked my spiritual master that how can I attract the merciful glance of Krishna? How? And my spiritual master mentioned by your love. By developing your love for Krishna, that's the way Krishna will be attracted. So, how do we develop our love for Krishna? How can we make all our activities in such a way that we can develop our love for Krishna? This is our main concern in this Krishna consciousness movement. So, initially, this one Shivara Maharaj mentions that initially what happens, we develop attachment, affection for the service, and eventually the service, it goes in the background as one advances, and Krishna becomes prominent. So, like for example, initially, if we're doing some service, like we're cooking, so initially our concern is more during the service that we cook nicely, etc., etc., etc. And as one advances, then those details they become they go on, they are there, but they are not so much the concern. So that is the difference between an new devotee, a neophyte devotee, and advanced devotee. Of course, there are shades, but this is the difference. That a pure devotee, he is actually concerned, really concerned about Krishna, and he's thinking about Krishna, and his deep, very deep meditation on Krishna is what is very, very attractive. So, the way by which this process of relishing Krishna consciousness or taking deep shelter in the practices of devotional service, it starts by hearing. By hearing. So, how can we hear? What should we hear? So, first thing we should hear, along with hearing Krishna's pastimes, whatever pastimes we can hear, it's very important to hear about how to hear, the mode of hearing, so that we can develop deep eagerness to hear. And of course, our previous acharyas have written so many songs about that. But um, I just want to read a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita about what it actually means to hear. His Holiness Radha Govind Maharaj and Holiness Radha Maharaj, many devotees, spiritual master, when devotees were so eager to hear, they would speak for hours and hours, hours and hours. So His Holiness, I mean, His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he was called for lunch, he would become very upset because he said, you know, I'm hearing the pastimes of Krishna and you are interrupting my hearing. So this is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya 547. This is where Pradyumna Mishra receives instructions from Ramananda Roy. Ujjvala Madhura Prema Bhakti Se Pai Ananda Krishna Madhurya Vihar Sadai. Tasting transcendental, effulgent, sweetly ecstatic love of Krishna, such a person can enjoy life 24 hours a day in the transcendental bliss of the sweetness of Krishna's pastimes. So this is our mission statement, this is our goal. The goal of life is to have such a quality of life, is to constantly taste the transcendental sweetly, I mean, transcendental effulgent, sweetly ecstatic love of Krishna. So that is the goal of life. So if that is the goal of life, then we have to follow the footsteps of those who have achieved that goal. So in this case, Ramananda Roy, I mean, Pradyumna Mishra is teaching Ramananda, I mean, is inquiring from Ramananda Roy, and we can hear something, we can meditate on something, on how, what mode we should have to hear, because ultimately the mode of hearing, um, the reason why we are hearing is very, very important. Because just like according to the hunger we can digest, so similarly, according to our deep desire to hear, Krishna will reciprocate. Because it's Guru Tattva, it's not a person. So our spiritual master Krishna Srila Prabhupada will reciprocate to us through our what is our how much hunger we have. So I'll just read. One day, Pradyumna Mishra came to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, offering his respects and inquiring from him with great submission. My lord, he said, kindly hear me. I am a cripple-minded householder, the most fallen of men. But somehow, by my good fortune, I have received the shelter of your lotus feet, which are rarely to be seen. I wish to hear topics concerning Lord Krishna. I wish to hear topics concerning Lord Krishna constantly. Be merciful unto me and kindly tell me something about Krishna. So then, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, I see that you have acquired a taste for hearing talks regarding Krishna. Therefore, you are extremely fortunate. Not only you, but anyone who has awakened such a taste is considered most fortunate. A person who performs his regulative duties according to Varna and Ashrama, but does not develop his dormant attachment for Krishna or awaken his desire for hearing and chanting about Krishna, is certainly laboring fruitlessly. Like Prabhupada quotes his famous word, Shrama eva hi kevalam. So that's the purpose of all our services, to awaken this deep desire to know more and how can I practice devotional service? In what mode can I practice devotional service? So that's why we have to constantly hear about the process, about the practice, about how pure devotees practice devotional service. And if we are so fortunate, observe the way pure devotees, how they actually conduct themselves, because everything pure devotees do is pure devotional service. Whether it may be externally looking like pure devotional service to our mundane vision or not, it is pure devotional service. So, when we have such a deep taste and when we observe the ecstatic symptoms or the deep taste that pure devotees have for Krishna, that is the greatest wealth in our life. That is the greatest wealth. That is the only wealth we need. If we can constantly be in the fire of that inspiring ecstatic association of exalted souls, we don't need anything else in devotional service. That is the fuel for our devotional service. So, like we were discussing, that ultimately we have to come to the point in Krishna consciousness. Uh, Number one, hearing regularly from a person, trying to serve, trying to surrender to that person as much as possible, and at the same time, we need to um, imbibe the mood of that person or multiple persons. Because it starts with one person, but there can be more than one also. So, this is the sum and substance of devotional service. By asking questions constantly to serious devotees about how we can progress in devotional service again and again, we can ask the correct questions to the qualified persons. Then that will awaken, that will open our door for spiritual advancement. So, with a very humble mood, with a very eager heart, if we can inquire from serious devotees, then Krishna will be very pleased. And it's only through the blessings of devotees that we can advance in devotional service. Because we have to remember that in devotional service means bhakti adhikar. So bhakti adhikar cannot be acquired because one is very pious. Bhakti adhikar cannot be acquired if one is very knowledgeable, etc. etc. Bhakti adhikar can only come by the causeless mercy of the devotee. So if we want to fight against our karma, we want to go against our karma, and we want to develop pure devotional service, then the only hope is actually the constant merciful blessing of pure devotees. So we have to be constantly addicted. We have to be constantly longing for such association. And most important thing is we have to develop emotional dependence on pure devotees, because wherever we invest emotional dependence, that's where our heart goes. So we know that pure devotees, they are our only hope. So pure devotees is not limited to just Guru or Vaishnavas, but even previous acharyas to develop emotional dependence. And it happens by praying to them, by meditating on their mood. And in this way, as we constantly we take shelter of the pure devotees, and we feel like the pure devotees are our family. We cannot do anything if it is against the principles of pure devotee. If pure devotees don't like, we cannot do so until we develop um, that kind of mamatva. Mamatva means mindness. So of course, mamatva is Rupa Goswami says is on the stage of bhava bhakti. It's very high that one develops that mood, actual mood that Krishna is mine, and one thinks day and night about Krishna's pleasure. So that's a very high stage, but at least that can begin by developing that mamatva, that mindness towards the pure devotees and making the pure devotees very important. Their mood, their katha, their mercy, the most important thing in one's life. So that can start there. And we see the example of all of wonderful Prabhupada disciples that how they are so much eager to please Prabhupada, even after so many years. So many pure devotees, they've done so many things, but still they're very eager to please Prabhupada. And that shows that they've developed that very deep mamatva towards Prabhupada. And like even Srila Prabhupada, we see that Srila Prabhupada, one time one person came to Srila Prabhupada and told Prabhupada that you have done such amazing thing by opening this movement, and you have done what nobody has ever done before. And Prabhupada just was in a very grave, very deep mood, sober mood that time. And Prabhupada said that if my spiritual master is not pleased, it's completely, what is the use? And I mean, when I heard that, I felt like how Prabhupada was so concerned about the pleasure of his spiritual master that if, I mean, of course, um, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's, that is his one desire, but Srila Prabhupada's attachment to his Guru Maharaj was so deeply, I felt it so deeply, that if it was not pleasing, Prabhupada was willing, was completely open to giving up everything. So that type of attachment to the spiritual master on internally, attachment to devotees internally, attachment to association of devotees internally is very, very important in Krishna consciousness. And that's why sometimes it's very important and very helpful to actually take some time out and meditate and hear and absorb oneself. You know, we're worshiping Krishna, worship Krishna, but who is this Krishna? What is his characteristics? Or, you know, who is Prabhupada? What is his mood, etc., etc. So when we take some time out to actually pray to them, to hear about them, that helps us to develop that dependence, that connection. Because unless you spend time with someone, how do you develop a relationship? So yeah, we have to spend time and we have to develop this deep mood of shelter. So even though externally sometimes we're in situation where materially nobody may be appreciating us or giving us shelter, but if we develop this deep mood of internal shelter towards the pure devotees of the Lord, then you know that is the greatest benefit. Anyone has any, sorry, please forgive me, I'm not qualified to speak, but anyone has any question or comment, you can say. No problem, yes, sir.
So you were saying that you should ask only those questions which are not available in which but yeah, I was thinking if we ask question to a speaker, they will share their realizations right there. So is that like beneficial? It will be beneficial only with that.
Yeah,
even though it is available online, but the realizations will help us. Right? That's what I wanted to do.
yeah, Brody, we can ask, no problem. But then what I mean to say is that when we ask pure devotees or exalted devotees question, uh, if the first preference should be to ask questions which are very important to our spiritual advancement, the next questions can be yeah, if there is more time, we can always ask about these clarifications. And it is important, but I'm saying the first preference is that. I mean, first thing is we should see if we can find the answer in Prabhupada's books. And if we cannot find, yeah, then we can ask. So otherwise, if we ask the same question again and again and again, which is clearly found in proper books, like some details about this avatar, that avatar, if we ask such questions, then I mean, yes, they will share the realizations, but it may not be the best use of such association. May not be. Sorry, but you were saying something?
What I'm saying, you said Shishya from the when Arjun surrendered to Krishna, we have telling that with regards to listening,
Hmm.
how to do the same thing in sequence, or somebody junior.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I mean, when we see Vaishnava qualities manifesting, I mean, I'm sorry, but this is just my little understanding that when we see Vaishnava qualities manifesting in any devotee, whether junior or senior, then we become inspired and yeah, we can hear in that humble mood and I mean, yeah, I mean, and since it's Guru Tattva, if we are eager to hear, anything can manifest out of anyone's mouth. I mean, of course, devotees, seriously practicing devotees, but anything can manifest. So, yeah. And by seeing devotees who have such, like, I see that, no, Guruji, I'm just speaking about hearing. Anyone online has any question or comment?
So you mentioned a very nice point on emotional dependence. So in your own life, would you recommend something for me? In the sense like in what situations, like for instance, we have sadhanas to increase our emotional dependence on Krishna, where we chant Hare Krishna mantra, and sometimes specifically to Srila Prabhupada during Guru Puja, and to our deities during dressing them, or I mean, but I mean in all these situations, I mean to become external, but of course Arati, I mean, everyone's relationship with these things might change. But is there a specific instance where we can, like, you find that okay, this emotional dependence can manifest during this activity, this sadhana, uh, uh, like you said, hearing, I know, but I'm saying hearing is where we are hearing also. But is there does it happen seamlessly, or do you think like that emotional dependence has to take?
Yeah, probably two things. I mean, I know you already have it, but I'm just meditating. So, two things. First thing is when you hear regularly from the same person, then you can see like their mood manifesting through their speech. Like sometimes Prabhupada will say something. If you read it, you won't understand. But then Prabhupada will say it so forcefully, so you can understand. It's very dear to Prabhupada's heart. Sometimes Prabhupada will say something in a very enchanting, charming way. So these emotions they manifest by hearing from the same person. That's one thing. And then you kind of take shelter of that quality of Prabhupada. When Prabhupada speaks very enchantingly, very sweetly, you take shelter of that mood of Prabhupada and you pray that that same mood of Prabhupada actually manifests in your own devotion service. So that's one way. Another way is previous Acharya's days. Previous Acharya's days, not limited to those that we observe. I mean, in ISKCON, like we are, I mean, fasting, like some not limited to those days, but even other days when we don't observe fasting, we can, I mean, if we want, we can fast. If not, even if fasting is not important, but we can pray, we can deeply pray to those personalities, whoever it may be. And in that way, we can feel their mercy. See, emotional dependence happens when we have some reciprocation. So when we have some reciprocation with someone, then naturally, we become indebted, become grateful to them for that emotion, for that what they gave us. So the more and more we receive mercy, the more and more naturally we become attached to them. So it's like that. But I know that you have infinitely more realization than me, so please forgive me for speaking.
There were so many points that were very inspiring from you. So much like full lecture you mentioned. That's the mission statement you said very nicely. I mean, I'm just repeating this so that I remember it and I go on purpose. So, you said mission statement is to relish the pastimes of Krishna, and one who's got a taste of hearing is very fortunate. And you're mentioning that the stress on more and more associating with devotee, pure devotee, hearing from them, having an emotional dependence, and having a desire to hear from them purposefully, putting purposeful questions, and having a need for that in our own life. I think I found that very, say, very nourishing. But I wish I could have more questions because actually, I could have had more questions hearing you, but my colleague on very more questions.
No, Guruji, Prabhu is a personal exemplification of what is pure devotional service. So he exemplifies it every moment. So he's a person. So I'm just not qualified to speak, should not be speaking. Please forgive me for my impudence. Anyone has any question, comment online? Okay, so we will end here. Please forgive me and if I spoke anything wrong and inappropriate. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripasindhubhyacha